G'day, I'm Alister Christie and welcome to my CodeRage 9 presentation on becoming your own art department. You can find more about me at my website, learndelphi.tv, where I have a large collection of free videos on using Delphi. If you want some in-depth tutorials on various topics, you should check out some of my commercial content. As usual, I have gone over time trying to cram in as much detail as possible, so let's get started. So I have here an application I've labelled Useless App, and it pretty much is. We've got some speed buttons, some T buttons and a T-bit button, as well as a menu. If I run it, we can see add just says add, and about actually is the only button that does anything particularly useful. And we'll see if we've just got the standard lorem ipsum Latin text, which is used for typesetting. And the close button is the only other button that actually does anything remotely useful. So this looks like a typical VCL app. So you can see we've got the standard image for the close button, which I think Embarcadero should probably update all their bit button standard images, because they're looking quite antiquated 16 color images. But we can do much better. So basically we're going to look at how to draw some buttons, and we'll just get straight into it now. The application we're going to use is Inkscape for doing most of our drawing. I like Inkscape for drawing buttons because it's resolution independent, it's vectored, so we can scale our images to whatever resolution we need them very easily. It's free. You can go to inkscape.org and download it. Just click the download button. The installation is very easy. Just click next all the way through. There are other drawing packages, commercial ones, which are even more powerful, such as CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator, but don't let Inkscape's price fool you. It's actually very powerful. I should also say a little bit of a disclaimer that I'm not an artist. I have very little drawing talent at all, but I've managed to draw hundreds of buttons. Some of them even look very good. And we're going to do a few buttons today, but they'll be a bit rushed, so we're quite limited in what we can do, but you'll get a good idea. So let's get into some drawing. The images we're going to draw are basically going to be a coloured circle with a white image in the middle. The style is probably a bit old now, but they look quite good, and they're easy to create, not most efficient in terms of sort of number of pixels used, but they'll serve their purpose. So for our button background, we want to start with a circle. So I'm just going to hold down the control. You'll see we get a hint down the bottom here, and about that size. It's got a white border on it, so I'm just going to shift click to have no border at all. So it's just a circle without a outline. And I'm just going to duplicate that with Control D and make a larger version of it. So I'm just going to line that up like so, and from the path menu go difference, and I'm just going to make that black and copy that and that's going to be the bottom of our image button. Let's just zoom in a little bit and try and get that lined up a little bit better. That will probably do. And I just want another little arc along the top, and I'll do that with this drawing tool. So I'm just going to do a line and go back and use the edit paths tool and just create basically a crescent for the top, like so, probably even slightly closer to the edge. So something like that, and I'm going to make that white. And I don't want a border on that. Oops. So no border and no border on that one, which is fine. And I can just use control mouse wheel to move in. Just line that up a bit better. It's not going to matter too much because the images are actually going to be quite small. And now I'm going to make these bits transparent, so they show the background sort of parent color, if you like. And to do that, I'll just double click there, and we see the alpha set's currently set, or was set to 255. And if I bring that down to something like that, and likewise with that one. So we now have our background, and if we change the color, because this is black and transparent somewhat, or translucent, it sort of shows through. But we'll start with that, and I can group that together as one and shift that around. So that's going to be the basis of our buttons. And if I make, let's say, a number of these, we'll start with 4. And I might just save that off. Check it in documents, and we'll call it Department 1. In documents. So if we have a quick look back at our application, we've got a number of buttons. About and help will be quite easy. It'll be we can do about, a little I, and help a question mark. So we'll start with those. And probably want a bluish background. So just double clicking, took me a couple of goes, but to select the circle within our group of images. Let's grab a blue, and I might actually go slightly darker. And there's our eye, which is a tad small. And so let's up that up slightly. Now that's not quite the eye we want. The sort of information kiosk kind of eye is more of a courier kind of, if I get courier actually, courier new eye, and we'll bold it as well. I'll make that appropriate size, something like that, and of course we want it to be white. So that's more or less our first button. For our help, we'll do something similar. We'll go blue again, perhaps not quite that dark, but one kind of slightly different blue. Maybe that. I don't know. You can play with these things endlessly. And go text, throw in a question mark, bold it, make it a bit bigger. Sans is alright. Want something quite strong, I'll go with Arial Black, which I use for quite a lot. Oops. Arial Black. And of course again, white. And it's just a matter of kind of making it as big as possible. And that's pretty much our first two buttons. If we go back, add and remove, so we want a plus and minus. Let's save that off and do those next. So just Control S for save. So I'm just going to copy the question mark to both of those, and go back to our text tool and make that one a plus, and that one a minus. And we'll probably need to make that one a bit bigger. something along those lines. And that will probably do. Except for our plus, I will probably want to make that green. Let's move that well out of the way. There we go. Yeah, that green will do. Let's get things nicely lined up and reasonably centered. So we've kind of cheated with our buttons so far. We've just used fonts. History is going to, and close are going to be a lot more slightly more challenging because we're going to have to actually do some drawing. Let's do close next. And make that perhaps not that bright, but brighter than our. So basically, for our close button, I'm just going to do a rectangle with an arrow going into it. So we can use our rectangle tool. Let's go rectangle, which we want a white border with no interior, and I think that might still be, oh no, here we go, 10 maybe, oops. Something around that range for our border size. So we've got nothing in the middle, and let's make that slightly more door shaped, and we want to draw a line. Oops, let's try that again. And again, 15 is a good size, and make it white with a shift click. I'll just zoom in a bit, and we want a triangle. So I go in the stars and polygons tool, and we want a polygon with 3 corners, like so, which is a bit big, so something like that, and I might just make this a little bit bigger. Just take up a bit more of our button. And then we have a sort of a very basic rudimentary close image. And finally, history. Now, for inspiration, go to images.google.com and have a bit of a look. We see hourglasses and these sort of clocks with the arrow going in reverse. But I thought I would do something, do a footprint, which is kind of sort of where you've been in the past. And I'll just grab copy image and paste it, just to get us started. And again, I'm going to use the Bezier curve tool and just sort of do basic outline of a foot. Zoom in a bit, and we convert those to curves it a little bit, so it's not quite something along those lines. That's pretty rough, and we'll need some toes. So let's grab the circle tool. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And just get them approximately the right size. And we don't need that anymore. Kind of rotate those around a little bit so the ovals are pointing in the right direction. So that is a very, very rough foot. So I'm very much demonstrating my lack of drawing skills. Let's probably zoom it a bit more. We can make sort of fine tune some of this so it's a bit less pointy, but like so. So a very rough foot. And let's go Control G to group that. Take another one of those. Oops, I want use page up to bring it to the front. Just get that sort of as big as we can within the confines of our background, and make it white, and just eliminate the. So not the best foot. If I had a bit more time, I'd probably do a bit better, but anyhow. And so that's pretty much all the images we need. So now we want to go adding them into our application. What we want to do is export these images as bitmaps, and this is really bothering me. There we go. Line that up. So we'll start with our information icon, or about, and we export bitmap, make it 16 by 16, and as I've already done this, it's remembered the location, and I'm just going to go export, and if I bring across, we see we've got our about 16, go into properties, see it's a 32-bit image, so this is exactly the kind of image we want. It's got transparency, and if we go back to our Delphi application, and because that's a button, we need to put that on an image list, so I will just start with a new data module. Throw an image list, and I'm just going to change the color depth to 32-bit and add our icon. Okay, and collect the images, and IL16 for our 16 by 16 icons. Use that unit, and then we can hook up our image list. And then we have our about icon. Now this is not, video is not about actually putting images in your application, it's more about the drawing of them. So I'll quickly export those other images and put them in the image list. So I've exported and loaded the remaining images into the image list, and we can hook these up. I want to hook up the images for all of those, and in our action list, ideally help about add move and history. And we still need to deal with the close button. But you notice these don't quite look right, and if I run it, they don't actually work at all. I'm not quite sure why that is, but we can manually load images in the glyph property, which unfortunately requires a bitmap. I think you can actually, if you have a package that uses the PNG unit, it will allow you to load PNGs at design time. But anyway, so we can use a program called GIMP, which is available from gimp.org, and I'll just open and export as a BMP. Oops. And we can load those manually. And unfortunately they don't quite look right. What I'd probably do is convert everything to buttons and use buttons rather than speed buttons, but sometimes speed buttons more appropriate. Anyway, if we run that now, we can see we've got all our icons pretty much working. And on our about screen, we might say we want a big information icon, and because we've got it's not a kind change the map. Does that actually change its behavior? Let's try that once more. Okay, so to preserve our behavior. So I'm just going to go export bitmap. It's going to be about 100. Oops, and make it 100 by 100 pixels. Back to Delphi. Shove that off to the side. And we center it. So something along those lines. So that's the basics of drawing pictures. I'm now going to show you a few extra tricks. I'm now going to name each of these. Go to Object and Object Properties, and of course 001 About, and so on. So with all our icons now named, I've created a text file with a list of those same names and a batch file called make icons. Actually, we don't need ImageMagick at this stage, which basically creates some directories, deletes any PNGs out of those directories, and for each of the lines in that icons file, it executes Inkscape, loading our art department, exports a PNG of the same name as each of these lines, with width and height of 16 or 24. Yeah, so we're basically, and if I run it, so we have a look, we can see there's our art department SVG, which I've saved into that folder, our icons.txt, our make icons. We can run make icons, and it goes ahead and produces those icons. And if I load up Explorer, we've now got a 16 folder and a 24 folder with those images. And this file could contain hundreds of icons, and we just re-exported all of them, and we can do it at arbitrary resolutions. So I could now come back here and let's create another image list, IL24, and oops, I need to make those 24, which we'll lose our images at that point. Okay, there we go. Add into the 24 folder, select them all, making sure About is the first one. Go OK, and we come back here and say, well, we want bigger images on our menus, for instance. So rather than selecting IL16, we can get IL24, and then we've got larger images. We just need to make sure that we keep the same order in the image list so that they all correspond correctly. There's one other tool I want to show you, and that's ImageMagick, which you can download from ImageMagick with a CK on the end. And there's various Windows binaries. It's a command line tool, and it's incredibly powerful, and you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. Let's say we've had a request to add drop shadows to all the large images. Now, we could go in here and make copies of these, and then go into filters and add a drop shadow, something like this. We've got a drop shadow, but that's quite going to take. I mean, if you had hundreds of icons, it would take quite a while and be rather painful. What we can do is I've modified our batch file, so that requires ImageMagick again. I've added a shadow folder, so we start off by clearing everything in it and making if it's not present, and we've got a third for loop here, which is going through the icons file again and grabbing all the images in the 24 folder, and using convert, which is the ImageMagick, not to be confused with the DFM converter. You might have to put the full path on there depending on which order you've installed things. And yeah, basically adding a shadow, and I think it's 80%, and it's 1 pixel offset with 1 pixel blur or something like that. And we're saving it in the shadow folder. So if we rerun our make icons, so we're recreating everything, and come back. I've I've created BMPs. I was creating PNGs, but I had problems in Delphi with the ones created from ImageMagick. They're coming up with black backgrounds. But if we look at the properties, we see that they're actually a bit bigger now, 28 by 28 pixels. You could probably get that down, reduce that by a couple of pixels by chopping a border out, which you could do with ImageMagick, but it's probably a bit beyond the scope of this video. And so if we get our 24 icons and make them 28 by 28, grab all our shadows and run that now, we have drop shadows, as you can see on our menu items. And that's pretty much all I want to show you in terms of the live video. Just a quick summary. You want to create your source images in a way that's scalable, and we used Inkscape for doing that. And then you want to export the images you want at the various resolutions that you need. So we did 16 by 16 and 24 by 24. You might have other resolutions that you want to be able to export, and you might be wanting to handle different screen resolutions with, you know, for full HD kind of icons, you might do 32 by 32 or something like that. 16 by 16 is pretty tiny on large monitors, or high resolution monitors rather. You want to have transparent backgrounds on your bitmaps once they're exported, so that when you put them on your controls, the edges are crisp and smooth, and if you got like a gradient in the background or something like that, or the system colors are not standard, you want them to still look good. And finally, you want to manage your images with bulk operations. Don't play around exporting and resizing things one image at a time. Use command line tools to take advantage of there's bulk operations. Some links. Firstly, the 3 packages we used. Inkscape for creating your source vectored images. GIMP is an amazing application for editing bitmapped images, which we didn't have much time to cover. ImageMagick is just plain scary with what you can do at the command line. And of course you can contact me, Alister, at learndelphi.tv. Just some final words. If you don't want to draw your own icons, you can use some of the free ones that come with Delphi, or you can get an icon pack online, and you just need to do a bit of Googling for that. There's many free ones available, and heaps and heaps of commercial icon packs. Just check the licensing. Some of the free ones are not for commercial use. Or finally, you could commission someone else to do your artwork for you using something like 99 Designs, which is where I got my LearnDelphi.tv logo done. Thanks for watching this presentation. I'm Alister Christie from LearnDelphi.tv.
So now you said you used 99 Designs to outsource your LearnDelphi.tv logo, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so that's one of those...
beyond my artistic ability. So.
And so that's what, like, you get people bid on your project or something like that, or how does that work?
Basically, you fork over, it's about $300 or something, and to 99 Designs, and then you have a brief, you write a brief, and people create images based on that, and you sort of vote on the images saying, I like this one, I don't like that one, and the images sort of evolve over time, and after a few weeks you sort of get your final product.
Excellent. Very cool. I used Camtasia Studio to make tutorial videos for my app. Your video is very impressive.
Yeah, I felt this video was a bit rushed, actually. I sort of did it over about 4 or 5 hours. And yeah, not quite as polished as some of my commercial stuff, but I think the content's pretty useful though, so I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it's interesting the math though. You say that 4 or 5 hours felt like was kind of rushed to produce a half-hour video. I think that's something I've always been surprised about, and I always thought I was terrible at making videos and stuff like that because they take so long. But found out, oh nope, that's pretty typical.
Yeah. I also I tend to say quite a lot, and what have you. I find that very hard to avoid doing. And also, I talk really fast, and I just have huge difficulty slowing down.
Oh, Adam had a question here I missed. Sorry. He asked can you control the exact position of the icons on the buttons?
I'm trying to think. I think you can specify not exact, but there are some options to adjust how it relates to the caption, I think, or spacing. I'm not sure. It depends on the button as well. I don't think there's any options on the speed buttons, but T button has lots of stuff. So does bit button.
Yeah, I know on with FireMonkey buttons, you have quite a bit of flexibility to control how the image is placed inside the button.
Yeah, you can pretty much do anything you want, really.
Yep. Ori says the T-Image button has right, left, top, bottom.
Yeah, and there's a margin property as well, I think. Image margin or something, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Let's see if there's other questions here I missed. There's a Mac app called Icons, which takes a PNG image of any size and produces all the correct sizes for OS X, iOS, and Android, including iTunes artwork. Oh, very cool. I've used a website before. I can't remember which one it was that did that same thing, where you could just give them a piece of artwork and it would just there's all the pieces of artwork you need for submitting to app stores and creating all the required artwork for apps and stuff like that.
Okay.
Very cool. Icons.
Yeah, I also apologize for the rooster in the background, as you mentioned.
I thought that was great.
We've got 5 presently, and a number of chickens, or a number of hens rather. And we need to. Yeah, there's a few that need to go in the freezer, so it's a job for this weekend possibly.
Adam says, "Oh, that was a rooster, not a dog, like Marco and Ian had."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a dog as well, but she's usually pretty quiet.
That's good. Yeah, I have a dog too, and it usually is either in my office with me when I'm recording or right outside the office door. And she's almost always quiet. Although actually, she has made some noise occasionally, but yeah, she's usually pretty quiet though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Alister, for a great video. Actually, I was kind of looking forward to this because as I mentioned before, I'm not really an artist, but it certainly made it look easy to put those together. Also, when you put together the batch file, if you would put those maybe those little ball images you made is something maybe we could start with. I know that.
Yeah, I'll make the that SVG file available.
Excellent.
And people use it as a starting point.
Ori says that on the Image Lab site there is a resizer implementation in Delphi that can be used right within the code, handy part of the util. Nice. And it says I developed the OS X icon maker by Delphi. Oh.
Yeah.
So there's an OS X icon maker by Delphi.
Excellent.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, I've used Image Maker before for some little projects, and you're right. It's really scary what you can do with that from the command line. And I'm trying to think that's right. It has a few different command line utilities you can call from that within Image Maker that are there's Convert and a couple other ones, I think. Part of Image Maker.
Image Magic.
Image Magic, yes.
Yeah. Yes. No, I've looked at you look through the documentation online, and there's this huge number of crazy things you can do. With, not just drop shadows, but actually creating images from scratch.